September 11, 2001. A day in history we will never forget. The terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York and on the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. had an immediate and devastating impact on America, changing the world as we knew it forever.
There has never been a greater attack on the United States of America, and our loss of human life was significant and profound.
Our own Prime Minister, John Howard, was in Washington at the time of the attacks, there to celebrate the 50 years of the alliance.
Well, I'd originally gone to Washington to mark the 50th anniversary of the ANZUS Treaty. And the day before, it's on the 10th of September, I met President George W. Bush for the first time. I talked to him about the world situation. Neither of us had any idea of what was going to happen the following day.
John Howard was preparing for a news conference when his media advisor informed him that an aircraft had crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
About 10 minutes later, he came banging on the door. He said, another plane's hit the other tower. This is no accident. So I flicked on the television and, of course, I was confronted with those never-to-be-forgotten horrible images of the Twin Towers.
It was then that John Howard took the unprecedented decision to invoke the 1951 ANZUS Treaty. Arthur Sinodinos was John Howard's Chief of Staff at the time.
So it was a way of us showing practically the Americans that we take the alliance seriously. We're prepared to invoke these formal mechanisms which then have other consequences.
Now, people might think, well, was a disproportionality and all of that, but actually there wasn't.
Prime Minister Howard recognized the criticality of that important moment, and recognizing the power of that treaty, it was another touchstone that Americans recognized our friendship and that we were in great need at the moment. And so God bless John Howard.
People never forget what happened here on home soil. Australians too were caught up in the terror, many of them working here in New York in financial services. Back in Australia, people lost friends and colleagues. Australia's show of support in the wake of 9/11 took the relationship to a new level.
Howard and Bush bonded in a different way. They bonded as brothers in arms. And Howard then declared that the attack on America was an act of war. He said it was worse than Pearl Harbor because this was an attack on civilians. And he also said this was an attack on all of us. It was an attack on our way of life. And he pledged that day to stand with the United States.
So what did your invoking of the alliance actually mean in practical terms?
It was a huge statement of friendship, of solidarity, of a shared determination. And it gave very public expression, something that many millions of Australians have always taken for granted, that when there's a scrap and a common cause, America and Australia will stand together. One of the things you must understand about it, many Americans, when it comes to national security, they often feel very vulnerable and alone, more than people think. They think this huge war machine, the most powerful nation the world has ever seen, why would they get worried about anything? Actually, they do, and they worry about being friendless. They don't take their predominance for granted.